Okay, week 2 team tour recap and power rankings. So, how we're gonna do it is I'll just reveal 12, and then we'll go from so on. I'm gonna close this out, and then I'll just go over my reasonings and their matchup. So, at number 12, they were 12 last week and then 12 this week. It's since you're beginning with the European Union, this is Equi's team. Um, Unfortunately, so this week they played FBL's team, who also I think is one of the weaker teams. Um, and right now, I mean, they had a bad week 1. I mean, again, it was close in week 2, kind of, but I mean, the 2 sets they won both went to the final game also. Um, I don't know. My worry about them is just like their depth. The issue is, I mean, Equi's good. Um, But I don't really. It's hard to trust anybody else on their team except like Equi and Hedges maybe. But even Hedges is still new. He hasn't experienced it yet. Hasn't played a lot of sets. Their depth is just weaker than a lot of teams. Like it's just a lot of people have to play up, and so far the only really Equi has won 2 of their 3 sets, and Gaming Grand Postman wasn't super convincing either. And I feel like they lost to one of the weaker teams in my opinion. So it's really hard to give them anything that's not 12. Yeah, I agree. They just don't look strong on paper right now, and they're just not winning, unfortunately. Number 11 is when World is Violet's in. This is Violet's team. Um, Unfortunately, this team I almost still put higher. They're the only other 0-2 team. They played. The thing is, this team I have a lot more confidence in to come back, and I almost put them over the team I had 10th, still, even while being 0-2. But it's just hard. They've only won 3 sets all season, and it looks good on paper, but they're just not getting wins. So it's really hard. This week they were close. Terry and Stimmy went to game 5, and Violet and New Skills went to game 5. It could be a matchup thing for sure, Yakatarba. They have had to play 2 of the stronger teams. Like, I do think this team will bounce back. And we're not taking account into any of the week 3 matchups, but they have a chance to win there, but we're gonna ignore that. But the only worry is their depth is a little bit shaky. Pikes is losing a bit. Terriers look solid, but not like amazing. But they've looked, good enough. Monf barely beat Lulakita. You were hoping that would maybe be a little bit more convincing of a win, I guess. So, either way, not bad for them. They're just 0-2. At the end of the day, you gotta win. And right now they're not. But I do think this isn't a projection. I think this team could easily go up and be like 6th or 7th or 8th next week if they just win this week. They just gotta win. But I still have decent confidence that they can make the playoffs still. So it's far from over. But so number 10, this is FBL's team. This team, they are 1-1, so I did give them the respect. But I did kind of want to put this team 11th. My reasoning is, they did win this week, but it wasn't great. It wasn't super convincing. But they still won. I gotta give them the benefit of the doubt. They've had to play like a lot of their top people. I really thought this was gonna be my team. No, guitar, but it's not your team. Week 1, again, I gave them the benefit of the doubt because week 1 they were 1 game away from a good FBL upset, and they did win week 2, so I gave them the benefit of the doubt over the other 2 teams. But their team is it's scaring me a little bit. Their depth is still a little bit shaky. I've said this a lot before, but somebody like Violet Citizen has to be good for this team. They have to be a good, solid 2 seed, able to beat a lot of their other teams 2 and 1 seeds for them to be competent and good. And he struggled so far. He almost beat Equi, but he kind of lost a pretty winnable game in the last game of the set, and he got 4-0'd by Damon. So it's just a little shaky here. They did win, which is nice. but they've had to play a lot of their top players, which, again, looking in the next week, which we're not going to do too much, because it's not supposed to factor it in, but, like, this week they've pretty much had to throw, because they've had to play their top people, and, like, their first week, they played their top 5 and lost, which is, you never want to do that, so, again, could bounce up, could bounce back, but it's looking a little rough for this team still. At 9, a lot of people might be shocked by this. Also, again, this team was 12th last week. They were in 10th and fell down a spot. FPL was in 9th and fell down the spot. Kai's team I have dropping 5 spots and going down to 9th. People might be a little bit shocked here about this pick. But here's my issue with this team. Okay? They won week 1, but they beat a Kelby-less, knobless team. They almost lost that week, and they were playing a team that wasn't perceived to be very good in week 1, which is Knob's team. And I went over this last week. They did win, but it wasn't great. I mean, Knob's team is benching their 1st and 3rd seed. And when you're Kai's team, you are benching yourself, but you want to win that a little bit more convincingly. And this week made me suspect of them, because I didn't have Guitar's team rated super high before, but I mean, the problem is Kai's team, their depth just isn't showing. White losing to Geo is a bad sign. I know he's playing random packs. I didn't get to watch it, so I don't know what packs he hit. But if White's not beating Geo, that's not a good sign for your team in the future, your depth. But obviously the Guitarba, that's, fine. Guitarba's pretty good. But you really wanted LG to win. This team's depth is just not looking great. Isatashi lost to Pogai, and I don't think Pogai is amazing right now. You don't have a lot of info on Cucumber, but he lost pretty bad in this first week. And if teams can do what they're going to probably do a lot, which is just play around Kai and make sure he has to play one of their, play the 3 seed every week, it's going to be really hard for their team if their depth isn't showing up. So that's my reasoning for having them so low, is everybody knows how good Kai is, but the depth needs to be there. Kai cannot be the only one on this team that wins. Getting 4-1'd by a team, it's just not a good sign. And it being Kai is almost worse because you need depth. Number 8. I had this team. This team didn't move at all. I had them 8th last week. And this team is extremely hard to rate for me, because I haven't really had a normal week yet with week 2. And here's the thing with them. Week 1, they benched their top 2, and Beast team also benched their top 2. The team I'm on. And then this week they did win, but it wasn't like amazingly convincing on what you would want it to be. And what I mean by that is they did win their sets nicely. But I mean, Moose benched himself, so they played a team that benched their 1 seed. And I feel like these 2 sets are ones that, like, this depth is just very questionable. Oscar beat Beast. I don't know how indicative that is of his skill, and if he's going to and win that. Pooh Balls versus LC is one you want Pooh Balls to win. Wombat lost week 1. Cheese Master, lost to Ruhan week 2, which I do think Ruhan is not bad, but this is one that you want to be able to win with Ruhan being a little bit newer still. And I don't know how good S is, but their depth is a little bit worrisome. I trust in Tidus to be pretty good. I trust in Omen to be pretty good. I even trust in Pooh Balls to be solid. But it's the rest of their team. I don't think Mirko's a great 7 seed. You would like Wombat to have some better results by now. So the depth is very worrying for me. So again, a team that could go higher, could go lower. It just really depends on their depth. Yeah, I thought their depth was going to be a little bit better as well, Fluffo. So yeah, Tidus and Pooh Balls might be good. They might be able to carry it through. I will also say all of these 1-1 teams are super close. Like, there's not a huge diff. To me, I think 10, 11, and 12 have to be 10, 11, and 12. I could see 9 and 4 being the same tier of people. Well, look, S. I think that I don't understand because you win your sets, but you also say you're like 14-20. So number 7, I have tier 007. This is Beast Team dropping 2 slots. Um, I'm not super worried about it. Again, team I'm on. We lost this week to a hopless team. You would want to win this week, preferably. We play our top 2, hop sits. That being said, I'm not too worried about it. Nelson is showing out. You said that you're like in the 1400s, Knob. Or not Knob, S. You said you were like 1440 or something. Nelson showed out. Very good bright spot. Slop versus Dune. I mean, this set could have been completely different. Hop's team is they're only 2-2-0 teams. They're one of the last ones. It could be, like, this team could literally probably be second in the power rankings if Slop just, hit better than Dune in the last game. So, again, it's super close, but you have to judge it off what you see. And from what we still lost. The other team still won. But it was one game, so I'm not super worried about it. And it is worth noting that this team, again, we're not predicting, but would probably get the biggest power spike if the Pack 4 updates go through. Pretty much, 4 or 5 people on this team all have a Pack 4 developed already. So if Pack 4 does get a good buff, which it might, they could be higher. So keep that in mind. Can you scroll up to see the matchups? Oh, here. Am I in the way? There you go. I see. Yes. So, you would, Farit's a little worrisome. You would, he got like 3-0'd or 4-0'd by Damon. Damon did pull up the Pack 1, which, we weren't expecting that. But, Farit's it's a little worrisome, candidly. If he's going to be able to beat the 1 seeds, I think the rule is probably going to have to be me playing a lot more of the 1 seeds. And we were favored in this week, probably Slop or Farit's just needed to win, but it happens. That's how the game goes. So I'm not too worried about it, but either way, I think we can't be too much higher than where we are right now. Number 6, Echo's team, dropping 3 places. I had them 3rd last time. And here's my reasoning for this team dropping. Their depth, solid, okay, but it's not amazing. Cap, we've seen, is a little streaky. Echo's gonna do Echo things. Echo, in my opinion, is probably top 3 right now. He's got an argument to be the best player, in my opinion. Extremely good. Bird is a little worrying. Bird did beat Violet, but I wasn't super impressed in that set. He kind of seemed to just hit he did play. He didn't play bad, but I wasn't super impressed. Cody sat this week, obviously. I think Cody's really good. In my opinion, he's probably their 2 seed over Burt. So, again, this team, if I was projecting, they would probably be higher. But right now, I think this is as high as I can put them because they did just lose to a knobless team. Knob sat, and they also sat, who was it? Their 4 seed, I think? Oh, yeah, they sat OG. So, this is a week that you would really like to win. Mango, unfortunately, he looked rough. The games I've seen from Vaughn haven't looked amazing, but, he played Pikes, who we don't really know how good he is, and he played Crocs, who I think is insanely good. So, we haven't really seen a middle ground. Does he play this week? He plays Blanket. Blanket will be a perfect matchup to see where Vaughn is really at. Because right now, I feel like we haven't really gotten a good matchup for Vaughn to get a good skill range on him. But right now, it's just the depth. I know Echo's going to do it. I know Cody's probably going to do it. But I think Mango is looking like unfortunately, one of the worst 7 seeds. We don't know how good Vaughn is yet. Cap has been very up and down, shaky. And Burt, he lost to Kelby. And Kelby might be good. Kelby's also very streaky. So that's why I have this team here. They did have a good week 1, so it pained me to put them this low. But their week 1, they did play a lot of their top people, and the other team did bench Owl. So it's a little hard to judge them. But I feel like if they with you playing Echo and then benching Knob, that is a week that in theory should probably be winning a lot, and unfortunately they just didn't. Again, it was only by one game. Mango and Pogai went to like game 5, but that's how all of these are decided. So you can't really. Every week pretty much comes down to one game, one high rule, very minor things. Kelby's so back. Yeah, I mean, again, another thing I was talking about, which we'll get to it with Knob's team, is I've been saying since the beginning of the season that Kelby is like the X factor for this team. A lot is riding on Kelby to be where he's at. And this week with Kelby winning, that is why I have them going to be high. Because if Kelby can win like he's supposed to win against 2, 3, 4 seeds, that team is going to be pretty good. Especially with Crocs are nice being a nice hidden gem. Let's get some water. And that's who I do have in 5th. Knob's team. They were at 7th last week. I have them up to 5th. We have not seen Katariba's team yet. I'd like to mention that. Knob's team. I'm honestly very impressed by Knob's team for a couple things. They are 1-1, and they have benched Knob in both weeks. They've benched Kelby in a week. They've played Pogai both weeks. This team is very impressive to me because they played Kai's team, who was perceived to be one of the better teams going into the season, if not the best team going into the season. They made it very close. They brought it within one game. Monkey almost beat Light. And Crocs are nice is looking like a real 3-4 seed. He's been playing extremely well. And they're looking good. They took Kai's team to game 5, which weren't expected. And they won the second week without Knob on their team and the other team playing Echo. I feel like that cannot be stated enough. Very impressive for them. Pogai is 2-0. I personally thought Pogai going in was going to be one of, if not the weakest 7 seed, at least in this conference. And he's won both of his sets. Again, not against like insanely strong players, but winning is winning. If he can consistently be beating those 7 seeds 80% of the time, that's really going to help. Wait, what? Why does my team have to be on the left? Wait, what? Oh, like all the way to the left. Oh, I see. If Tyler, if Elo actually determines how good you think I am, I could grind it. No, I'm not saying that. I just, you just haven't been playing a lot. Plus, yeah, generally. But again, like, if you haven't played, then of course. But either way, this team has been very impressive. I thought it was going to be one of the worst teams, again, candidly speaking, going into the season. But they look good. They're 1-1. They get Knob for the rest of the season. Again, we don't know how Knob's skill will be. We got to really see how it is in the coming weeks. I don't know how good he is right now. Plays me next week. We'll see. It will definitely be a good test to kind of gauge where he's at right now. He looks like one of the weaker 1 seeds, I will say. But if Monkey can play well and beat up some 2-3 seeds, if Kelby can play well, they have Crocs are nice, that's going to add to the depth. If K-Tom is active, this team could be very scary in the future if they're playing how they are. OG, I think, is in a rough spot. He probably, I will assume, will get seeded down in the reseed. Probably a little bit overrated on the seeding. But besides that, I mean, this team has had a lot of bright spots. And they took one of the best teams perceived at the start to 2-3 with their 1 seed benched. And they beat Echo's team, who I think is very strong as well, 3-2. Number 4, we have Katariba's team jumping up 7 spots. This was the biggest jump or fall even of any of the teams. This team was very hard for me to rank. And I'll give you why. They lost horribly in the first week. Okay, that's why they had them at 11. They lost horribly. And I wanted to put them low because of that reason. But then I look at this team, and, they almost lost 5-0, okay? It was really bad. They got like 3-0, 3-1, 3-1. The only set they won was 3-2. It was bad, okay? But then I looked at it a little bit more. They played what I believe is probably the best, if not one of the best teams, okay, in the league. And looking at week 2, they played a top 3 from Kai's team. Geo beat Light as a 4 seed. Geo, if he can perform, he's going to be good. Guitarba is a pretty solid 1 seed. Coke is pretty good. Tapir is also pretty good. They have very good depth, and after the first week, I wasn't sure if they would. Jiggy, probably still not going to be the best 7 seed. He's going to struggle. He's still newer. But outside of that, I mean, Tapir, extremely strong 6 seed. Coke, good 5 seed. Geo, pretty solid 4 seed. Snixer, he's questionable. He lost to Anonymous pretty bad. We'll see where Snixer lands. Snixer's probably going to be an X factor on this team. Him and Geo and Sag, I guess, those 2, 3, 4 seeds. If they can show out, this team's going to be very good. My worries for this team. 1, Jiggy, because you need 7 seeds are so important. Having a consistent 6 or 7 seed in this type of tournament is so important to consistently beat up on the bad players. Like, that's what our team, for example, has with Nelson. Nelson, very strong against bottom 6, 7 seeds, good player. But either way, Vidarver's depth showed this week. Again, one of the squeaky teams. I could see a real argument for like 3 through 9 all being switched up in some different way. But beating Kai's team, beating them super convincingly, and their depth showing is very good. Okay. Number 3, catch these Drew Hands, Moose's team. Again, weird team to judge. And here's why. They're only 1-1. And they did lose to the team we have ranked 8th, and I know everyone's going to be like, well, why is it one team that's ranked 8th, only 8th when they beat the 3rd team? Here's my reasoning. My biggest question about this team is how their bottom seeds are going to perform. And if S can be a good serviceable 5, 6, 7 seed, if Ruihan can be a good 5, 6, 7 seed, they're going to be a good team. I think Moose is relatively consistent enough. Ruihan is winning sets, which is very important. He's a grinder. Extra I Flip Gasil all to play up this week. I'm not super worried about it. They benched Moose. They won the 2 sets that I think are most important for their team to win this week. To show that they do have a lot of depth. Now, I don't need to watch the video now. We were saying all the one except ours. I think that is true here, unfortunately. I think your team has got to be the worst 1-1 team. They have an argument to be 11th, but it's just because you guys have played your top 5 and you have struggled to win still. That's the only reason. And you guys can come up. Right? I can only base it off results right now, though. And off results, it's looked a little rough. But you guys can definitely show up still. I'm not like counting any team out right now. But I do have to say I do think you guys have to be 10th right now. But I think this is a good sign for Moose's team. Bubblevat won the first week. I'm pretty confident that Extra Flip still can all bounce back against people who are in their own, who are their own seed. Moose, solid player. He can definitely come back. I know he did lose week 1, but not too worried about him. Moose is just pretty good at the game in general. So, either way, I think winning these matches are super important. And they benched Moose and they still had a good week. So, again, this team I could definitely see them being one of the best teams. I could see them maybe falling off a little bit if they, get some bad matchups. But right now, seems like a very good depth team. So, yes. Number 2, Strawberry Hat Pirates. This is Hop's team. They went up 4 slots. They were 6th last time. So, here's the issue with this team. First of all, they're one of the only remaining teams left that are 2-0. I thought about putting them maybe under a 1-1 team, but it didn't make a lot of sense to me. They're winning sets, okay? That's what all that matters. At the end of the day, as long as you win, it doesn't really matter the rest of the results. That being said, it hasn't been a super clean 2-0. They did, again, this week. They benched Hop and still won. That's very good for them. It came down to 1 game, again, so it's a little shaky. 1 game could have swung a lot of things here, but, again, they won. That's all that matters. There's a few question marks for this team. I will say that. So, Damon looking very strong. Great job. Hop is a big question mark for this team. He looks a little shaky. This will be a good pivot week. I believe he's playing Fluffo. It will be a good test to really see where they're at. Amza, he's also struggled a bit. You know, he almost lost to FBL. He wasn't playing amazing. He seemed like he was playing better in his set versus me, but he still lost. Dune, one of the X factors on this team. I think him and Goose and Rex being a decent 7 seed. Honestly, I think it's Dune, Goose, and Hop. Those are like my 3 X factors for this team. Dune, if he can consistently beat people like Slob, beat 5-6 seeds, they're gonna be good. You know, Rex looking like a rough 7 seed right now. But, you know, he can always bounce back. He's only played 1 week, and he played Nelson, who I think is really good, especially for his seed range. So I'm not super worried about Rex. You know, he might bounce back. Phoenix, solid 4 seed, not worried about him. Again, the big questions are just like Hop and then Doom being an X Factor, beating those bottom seeds. But either way, they're still 2-0. This is still a good team. Hop, one of the better captains, in my opinion. I think he manages his teams pretty well. He does good benches. He gets good matchups, usually. But, you know, good team. Just a couple question marks, but every team pretty much has some question marks. Number 1, they were second last week. They're first this week. They're 2-0. And right now, to me, this feels like a very clear 1 spot. There was really no debate for me between 1 and 2. And actually, we can move it like this now. Between 1 and 2, they're just miles ahead right now. And I'll give my reasoning here. Week 1, we have established that we think that Katarba's team has pretty good depth. And Simi's team thrashed all of that depth we just talked so good about Katarba. I mean, they destroyed Katarba's team, okay? Simply put. Without, there's 2 and they're 5 seeds. So, that being said, this week, very good wins. You know, Simi beating Terry is very good for them. Simi, one of their X factors, I think. Those 5 spots are very important. So Simi, nice win there. Wolfgang is looking like one of, if not the best 7 seed. He's played super clean from what it seems like. He's beating people. Wolfgang, looking very strong. Lulakita is looking good. Lulakita, admittedly, somebody I thought coming in was not going to be great. They didn't perform phenomenally in the team tour they were in. Like, their personal performance, they did, like, their team did win. But Lulakita kind of struggled versus some of the bottom people. And I was very worried, honestly, about Lulakita for this team. But Lulakita is playing pretty good. I mean, taking Mumph to game 5, taking Coke to game 7, I think it was. They're playing very good. Which is a very key piece on this team. Which is one of the reasons I have them so high. Is because this team's depth is really good. Anonymous, I think, is just good at the game. He's one of the better 3 seeds. Noob Skills is a pretty good player. He's a solid 2 seed. I want to see Fluffo still against some more of the top people. I do think Fluffo is pretty good in the game in general. I know he doesn't have a lot of experience right now in the new Pack 1, even though he's still pretty good. It's gonna be curious to see how Fluffo matches up against like Kai, Echo, Rekwar, teams they haven't played yet. Well, they did play Rekwar's team, but he sat. Also, it's worth noting that for this team, they have benched Al week 1 and Rekwar week 2, which is another reason I kind of like the 0-2 for them still. But either way, we got to see Fluffo against those top people still that I think are some of the best in the game. But honestly, this team is just looking very good. They 4-1 Katarba's depth, and I think, again, Katarba's depth is pretty decent. And this team just super strong 1 through 7. They don't have a weak spot, which we've seen time and time again has been so key in teams that win. These deep teams where Lulakita, even if they're not winning, they're taking them deep in the series. Simi winning games as a 5 seed. Wolfgang destroying the bottom seeds. You know, Anonymous, he's come on and he's looked good. His set versus Al wasn't insanely clean, but he's still performing super well. for just starting and getting more experience. He's still a really good player. I'm not super worried about the Owl loss. So that's why I have them at 1. Their team is super deep. They're beating good teams, and they're just playing good. They're one of the only undefeated teams left. So these are the power rankings, though. We have Equi's team at 12, Violet team at 11, FBL's team at 10, Kai's team at 9, which is crazy to think about. Everybody was saying they were going to be 1 at the start of the season. Fun fact, I ran the prediction form, and Kai's team was the only team where 100% of the people said that they were going to make the playoffs. Guaranteed. Everybody had them as one of the 4 teams to make it, and right now I have them 9th. They could still make it, but right now they're 5th in their conference. They're kind of struggling. Their weak depth is kind of showing right now. Easily fixable. They could definitely come back, but right now that's where I have them. Cheetah's team at 8, Beast team at 7, Echo's team at 6, Knob's team at 5, Katarba's team at 4, Misa's team at 3, Hop's team at 2, and Simi's team at 1. Biggest jump, of course, of the week was Katarba's team. Again, huge win for them over Kai, 4-1, very dominant. Again, don't like going 1-4 in the first week, but it was against the best team, in my opinion. And I do think they could easily, I don't think they're going to go 4-1 many other times in the season, so I'm not too worried about it. And then, of course, the biggest fall of the week is Kyogre's team. They've just kind of struggled. I mean, barely beating Knob's team when they benched their 1 seed. I know they also benched Kai, but you would like the depth to be a little bit stronger. And then kind of getting just ran over by Katarba's team in a week where I think most people had Kai's team pretty favored. Like, a lot of people favored White in their set. A lot of people have favored LG in their set. I know some people were taking Cucumber even over Coke. So you got to really, the depth is a big thing for that team for me. And just another person I want to give a huge shout out to that I feel like I didn't give enough credit to is Crocs Are Nice. There's a reason they're playing Crocs Are Nice right now as much as they are, because he's so underseeded. He's just a low seed killer right now. Shout out to Crocs. He's looking like maybe the steal of the draft so far through 2 weeks. So either way, those are my week 2 power rankings. Hopefully I explained everything good enough. But I feel like I have good reasoning for I have reasoning for all the things I did. And I'm excited to see this week 3. I think the records will even out. It'll be a little bit easier. Teams will start falling into their place. You probably won't see 7-spot jumps very often on the power rankings, but after only 1 week, it's very hard. 1 or 2 weeks, it's hard to judge and get a good indication. But either way, I feel like that was good. And those are my week 2 power rankings.